I met Prince when I was 12.
Where did you meet Prince when you were 12?
In Dayton. After
Really?
he performed at UD Arena. Yeah, I mean, I knew him my whole life. He was like the guiding force for me. It's the reason I had high self-esteem, was a guy that was always 30 steps ahead of whatever the curve was. And, you know, when you play 26, 28 instruments, it means that you are able to be multifaceted.
When people say that they love you and they respect you, but at the same time take, 80% of your earnings, then expect you to fix your own communities, and they'll probably edit all of this out. But then that's the sharp part of the sword, and we're at the wrong end of it right now. So eventually, with courageous people going out there and actually saying something, standing up for it, we'll get something.
When I was 12, I met Prince after his show at UD Arena in Dayton. I knew him throughout my life, and he was a major influence on me. Prince was a big reason I had high self-esteem. He was always ahead of everyone else. Being able to play 26 or 28 instruments shows how versatile he was. Even though people admired and respected him, they still took 80% of his earnings and expected him to help his own community. That's the harsh reality, and we're on the losing side of it right now. But with courageous people standing up and speaking out, I believe we'll see change. In April, Tidal was the only streaming service with access to Prince's music. But now the Prince estate is suing Jay-Z's Roc Nation for copyright infringement.
It's not your game. You didn't make the rules, so everything comes hard. As long as you're signed to a contract, you're going to take a minority share of the winnings. A select few of us will do well. The majority will not. So as a people, we'll be considered a minority. But stop. Let's take a moment and look at yourselves. There's nothing minor.
Katt Williams just dropped a major revelation about why Prince had serious issues with Jay-Z and Diddy, and he brought receipts to prove it. New details have emerged about Diddy's close connections to Warner Brothers Records, the label Prince fought for years. Warner controlled Prince's music, and we all remember how he changed his name to a symbol to protest their attempts to own him. Meanwhile, Diddy was cozying up to Warner, but when Prince died, Diddy had the nerve to act heartbroken and claimed Prince inspired him. As for Jay-Z, he did something worse. He tried to trick Prince into moving his entire music catalog to Tidal, expecting Prince to hand over ownership of his work. But Prince saw through it and wasn't going to let Jay-Z profit from his art. This drama led to a huge lawsuit after Prince's death, when his estate accused Roc Nation of exploiting the situation for profit. This is just the beginning. Reports suggest Prince also warned artists about Diddy and Jay-Z's rumored wild parties. Prince was known for exposing the dark side of the music industry, calling out exploitation and shady deals, so it makes sense he distanced himself from Jay-Z and Diddy. Some fans even speculate that Prince's famous 3,121 parties were his attempt to offer a safer, more creative space for artists and industry insiders. Compared to the chaos of Diddy's parties, Prince always stayed ahead of the curve, and now some fans are questioning whether his death was really an accidental overdose or if he was silenced by industry leaders who saw him as a threat. It seems Katt Williams might know more than he's letting on, so let's dive into what he revealed about why Prince kept his distance from Diddy and Jay-Z.
Like Mariah Carey just had this big $20 million, that's like a huge deal, right?
So you feeling that?
No, well, what I mean, I don't understand. What the public sees the word $20 million an album. Well,
let's see. Do you all think that's a good deal?
What, I mean, tell me why. I mean, what am I missing?
Okay, let's do some math.
Okay.
If
do math like that?
Kinda. If you sign me, you signed me to a record company,
right,
or a record deal. Let's suppose you have a record company.
Right.
How much would you give me? The album sells for $18, right? $18.
Whatever. Yeah.
All right. How much of that would you give me?
Well, I don't know how it works.
Well, no.
Half?
Half sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Check this out. If I sell 1 million copies, I'm gonna have $10 million, right? Roughly $10 million.
Right.
If I sell 2 million copies, I got $20 million.
Right.
If I just sell 3 million copies, I got $30 million. Now who has the biggest record deal?
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Okay.
Right? So Mariah kind of got straight.
Let's break down Prince's battle with Warner Brothers. This fight wasn't just about money or contracts. It was about control over his art, identity, and legacy. Prince's relationship with Warner started back in 1977, when he was just 18 years old. He was a fresh talent with incredible potential, and Warner saw that. They gave him something rare: full artistic control. He was allowed to write, produce, and play all the instruments on his albums, which was almost unheard of back then, especially for a newcomer. But let's be real, Warner wasn't being generous out of goodwill. They knew Prince was a goldmine. While they gave him creative control, they still owned everything he produced. As Prince's fame skyrocketed in the 80s with timeless hits like Purple Rain, 1999, and When Doves Cry, Warner tightened its hold on him. The more successful he became, the more they wanted to control him. This was the beginning of a long struggle for Prince to reclaim ownership of his work and his legacy.
My publishing contract with Warner Chappell expired, thus emancipating the name I was given before birth, Prince, from all long-term restrictive documents. I will now go back to using my name instead of the symbol I adopted as a means to free myself from all undesirable relationships. The price of CDs have skyrocketed while the quality of music has plummeted. And as long as middlemen create the means by which the consumer consumes, this will never change. The problem is not a complex one. The solution is simple. Let the baker make the bread. I'm a musician.
Yes, Prince was making millions, but Warner owned his masters, meaning they controlled how his music was used, sold, and distributed. Every time a Prince song was sold, Warner took the majority of the profits. This is when Prince realized that Warner didn't care about his artistic vision. Their main focus was maximizing their profits. To Warner, Prince was just another product to exploit. But Prince wasn't going to let that slide. He became increasingly frustrated with the label's control over his music and career, sparking a battle for creative freedom and ownership of his work.
I had to search deep within my heart and spirit, and I wanted to make a change and move to a new plateau in my life. And one of the ways in which I did that was to change my name. It sort of divorced me from the past and all the hang-ups that go along.
The situation goes even deeper, and many of Prince's fans have speculated that Warner wasn't just trying to control his music, they were trying to break him. Over the years, there's been a lot of talk that labels like Warner would intentionally suffocate an artist's career once they became too powerful, influential, or difficult to control. Think about artists like Sam Cooke, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and others who died under suspicious circumstances. Things reached a breaking point in 1995 when Prince appeared in public with the word "slave" written on his face. This was his way of declaring that he was a slave to Warner Brothers because they owned his music, his masters, and even his identity as Prince. He began speaking out about the dangers of signing away your art to big corporations, calling the music industry a modern form of slavery. Prince wanted other artists to understand the risk of giving up control over their work, and this marked the start of his public fight against the exploitation he faced in the industry.
It's apart, and it keeps the people in power in charge of us. So ultimately, we're going to have to learn how to be together and become one people. What I've been doing recently is studying the scriptures as deep as I can, so that that's what gives me the optimism. And I would advise anybody, if you want to feel like there's some hope in this joint, pick up the book and read it and get somebody to actually show you what's going on in it, because it's a real thing. You don't hear a lot of young people talking about things like I talk about because they really haven't lived. They haven't gone through a lot of experiences yet. And we can't really expect them to. It's just not all the party, alcoholism and promiscuity. Get some elders up in here and let's talk about all this and distribution service. What do we really need record companies for? Really.
Prince explained how Warner Brothers had trademarked his name and used it as the main marketing tool to promote the music he wrote. He said, "The company owns the name Prince. I became merely a pawn used to produce more money for Warner Brothers." Naturally, the music industry didn't take kindly to his rebellion. Warner tried to downplay his claims, painting him as just an eccentric artist going through a phase. Warner eventually retaliated by shutting down distribution for Prince's Paisley Park Records. In response, Prince launched his own label, MPG Records, with the goal of having complete control over his music and releasing it on his own terms. He even secured a deal with EMI Records, which gave him the freedom to release albums whenever he wanted. Despite this newfound independence, Prince continued to criticize big record labels, going as far as to say that they were unnecessary and shouldn't even exist. His fight wasn't just personal. It was a call for artists everywhere to reclaim their rights and reject the control that corporations had over their work.
Not your game. You didn't make the rules, so everything comes hard. And as long as you're signed to a contract, you're going to take a minority share of the winnings. A select few of us will do well. The majority will not. So as a people, we'll be considered a minority. But stop. Let's take a moment and look at yourselves. There's nothing minor about
Prince was vocal about how younger artists, who hadn't yet lived through a lot of experiences, often didn't realize the pitfalls of the industry. He wanted to shift the narrative, saying it wasn't all about partying. There were real issues like alcoholism and promiscuity. He pushed for more guidance from experienced artists, saying, "Get some elders up in here and let's talk about this." Prince even questioned the need for record companies, asking, "What do we really need record companies for, really?" During this period, Prince moved between different labels, releasing his music through his own MPG label while partnering with major companies like Columbia, Universal Music Group, and Clive Davis's Arista Records. Occasionally, he even worked with Warner again. However, throughout it all, he continued encouraging other artists to maintain their independence and seek different partnerships, rather than locking themselves into restrictive contracts with one label. This was his way of pushing for more freedom and ownership in the music industry.
Impression now that slave is not anymore on your cheek here, that you feel fresh, new, more funky, more inspired?
Yes, sir. Very
How
much.
come?
Well, once you free yourself from all contractual binds, you make music differently in the studio. Not thinking about working for someone, thinking about just creating for God.
Yeah, that's important.
That's right.
However, Prince eventually realized that all the record labels were essentially the same. He grew so disillusioned with the industry that he expressed regret about joining it in the first place. In an interview with the LA Times, he said, "If I knew the things I know now before, I wouldn't be in the music industry." In another interview with Rolling Stone, he added, "If I can't do what I want to do, what am I?" When you stop a man from dreaming, he becomes a slave. That's where I was. I don't own Prince's music. If you don't own your masters, your master owns you. Even though Prince eventually parted ways with Warner Brothers, the fight over his masters wasn't over. Warner still owned everything he recorded under their contract, continuing to make millions from his work. Some even speculate that Warner wanted to hold on to Prince's catalog for as long as possible, not just for its value, but because Prince's independence posed a threat to the entire industry. If Prince could prove that an artist could thrive outside the traditional label structure, it could inspire other artists to follow his lead, potentially dismantling the industry's grip on artists' rights and creativity.
Years after announcing a decision not to file charges in Prince's death, authorities released documents and video of his last days. Among the evidence, pictures from Paisley Park on the day Prince died, showing pills and a Bayer bottle authorities say contained the deadly counterfeit Vicodin.
Unfortunately, the subject counterfeit Vicodin pills are an exact imitation of real Vicodin pills, but the counterfeit pills contain the potentially deadly opioid.
In 2007, Prince made another bold move to reclaim control of his music in the digital age by announcing plans to sue YouTube, eBay, and the Pirate Bay for using his music without permission. This was seen as a major threat to the industry. Around the same time, Prince removed his music from all streaming platforms except for Jay-Z's Tidal. At first, Prince thought Jay-Z cared about art and helping independent artists. But like many before him, Prince quickly realized Jay-Z was more interested in lining his own pockets. In 2015, Prince found himself in a new battle, this time with Jay-Z. As a supporter of artist-owned platforms, Prince was initially interested in working with Tidal, which promised artists more control and a bigger cut of the profits. However, Jay-Z wasn't just after Prince's support. He wanted ownership of Prince's entire music catalog for Tidal. Prince immediately shut that idea down. After Prince tragically passed away in 2016, the situation got even more complicated. His estate accused Roc Nation of trying to profit from his death by exploiting his music without proper authorization. Roc Nation argued they had the rights, but Prince's team disagreed, leading the estate to file a lawsuit against Jay-Z. Prince had only allowed Tidal to stream his album Hit and Run for a limited time. But after his death, Tidal continued streaming his entire back catalog, even though they only had permission for one album over 90 days. Jay-Z publicly bragged about controlling Prince's masters, despite Prince never leaving them to Tidal. Just a month after Prince's death, Jay-Z even dropped a verse on Fat Joe and Remy Ma's All the Way Up remix, rapping, "Prince left his masters with a safe and sound / we never gonna let the elevator take him down." Here's where things get even more suspicious. Prince died almost exactly 2 years after regaining control of his masters from Warner Music. On April 18, 2014, news broke that Prince had officially regained ownership of his catalog. Then, 2 years later, on April 21, 2016, Prince was found dead in an elevator at his Paisley Park home. Prince's death was ruled an accidental overdose, as he believed he was taking Vicodin for pain management, but the pills were counterfeit and laced with fentanyl. Hours after authorities announced they wouldn't file charges in Prince's death, they released documents and videos of his last days. Among the evidence were photos from Paisley Park showing pills in a Bayer bottle that authorities said contained the deadly counterfeit Vicodin. This has led many fans to speculate whether Prince's death was truly accidental or if there was something more sinister behind it, especially considering the timing of his passing just 2 years after regaining control of his masters.
Problem DMX.
I'm so sad. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people.
Don't you think that's hypocritical though? You're saying the
it's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
Who's Dame Dash? You brought him up. I don't even know him. So you bring his name up. I don't even know him. So
y'all made a lot of money together.
Made a lot of
Come
money.
on, yo, don't do that.
I don't know him. I really don't. So, I don't know.
Given all these strange coincidences, it didn't take long for Prince's fans to start speculating that his death wasn't just an accident and that someone may have intentionally given him laced pills. Even some industry figures, like Kanye West, expressed doubts about the official story. Kanye went as far as suggesting that both Michael Jackson and Prince were killed, hinting that he himself almost met a similar fate. He shared a photo of Prince with the word slave written on his face and captioned it, "Let's get it, big bro. You and Michael passed so we can live now." As for Diddy, the main reason Prince kept his distance from him was that Diddy worked closely with Warner while Prince was fighting for his freedom. In 2005, Diddy announced a joint venture between Bad Boy Records and Warner Music Group. Lyer Cohen, then chairman and CEO of Warner Music Group, welcomed Diddy to the fold, stating, "We're thrilled to welcome Sean and Bad Boy Records to the Warner Music fold. We believe Sean's entrepreneurial spirit and willingness to push the envelope creatively will be a perfect fit for Warner Music Group." The Bad Boy name has not only stood for hip-hop music for more than a decade, but has evolved into a unique and vital brand. It's also worth mentioning that Lyer Cohen is known for openly admitting that he signs artists who promote substance use, despite understanding the negative impact it has on the community. This connection only added to Prince's concerns about aligning himself with someone like Diddy.
Incredible parents, 3 other brothers, and just a loving, happy family. My dad was the head of psychiatry for Kaiser Permanente, and my mother was just a housewife and raising children, and remarkable period of my life.
Now, I've always assumed that you were born in Israel because you have a slight accent when you speak. Have you heard this before?
Yeah, so my parents weren't immigrants because they weren't staying here.
Okay.
So my biological father was coming here just for his education. And my mother worked for the Israeli government. Mm-hmm. And so when I was born, I went straight back to Israel.
Oh, so you stayed there for a while.
I spent my first 3 years in Petah Tikva.
Okay, and after you graduated, you went to go work for the Bank of Leumi?
Yeah, Bank Leumi is the National Bank of Israel.
Uh-huh.
My mother got me the job, and it was just when the Shah fell in Iran, and all of the Jewish Persians came straight to Beverly Hills. So we're counting money there.
A lot of money.
And you know, I was supposed to be a financial analyst, but I ended up counting money, and I think I was making $14,000 a year. I was miserable. It was a horrible existence, but my mother got me the job. I have a college degree, and so I thought that.
There's also a wild conspiracy theory suggesting that Liar Cohen has ties to a certain foreign intelligence agency and that he infiltrated hip-hop to push a specific agenda. One reason behind this conspiracy is the fact that Liar has been caught lying about his parents on multiple occasions, which raises suspicions about his background. In October 2023, Liar appeared on Vlad TV, and when Vlad asked about his parents, Liar initially claimed that his mom was a housewife. However, he later let it slip that his mom actually worked for the Israeli government and helped him secure a job at the National Bank of Israel. This inconsistency in his story has fueled speculation about his true intentions and connections within the industry. Fans and observers have questioned whether his role in hip-hop serves a greater purpose beyond just music, particularly in light of the controversial topics surrounding artists, substance use, and industry control. Now, circling back to Prince and Diddy, aside from Diddy's business dealings with Warner and Liar Cohen, the very people Prince warned others about, there's another theory about why Prince wanted nothing to do with Diddy. Some insiders suggest that after Prince learned about Diddy's behavior at those freak-off parties, he began hosting his famous 3,121 parties as a response. These invite-only events allowed artists to escape the toxic side of the industry and freely share ideas for their art without the interference of label executives. Some believe these gatherings were Prince's way of providing a healthier alternative to the depraved parties at Diddy's house. Additionally, Prince kept his distance from Diddy, with only one known photo of them together taken at the 2007 NBA All-Star Game. Other than that, Prince tended to stay away from Diddy's circle. However, he didn't remain silent. He allegedly warned other artists to avoid those industry parties and encouraged them to stand up to their labels. This is why many fans believe his death wasn't an accident. Rumors are circulating that Katt Williams will soon sit down for another explosive interview a year after his shocking appearance at a comedy club, where he allegedly plans to provide evidence suggesting that Prince was taken out by industry higher-ups, those same individuals who purportedly enabled Diddy's alleged misdeeds. While these reports are unconfirmed, people are already buzzing about what Katt might reveal regarding Prince. As for Prince's feelings toward Jay-Z and Diddy, fans argue that this serves as further proof that Prince was ahead of the curve, trying to warn everyone about the issues we're now seeing in headlines. Moreover, some fans have noted that Prince died just months after the controversy surrounding Tidal, and the caption on his last post read, "Just when you thought you were safe." What's your take on these theories linking Prince's death to Jay-Z, Diddy, and the industry higher-ups? Do you think Prince was truly silenced for trying to make a positive change in the music industry? Drop your comments below, and stay tuned for the next video.